That's it. What up, what up?
Big introduction for a show.
Very high budget. Very high budget.
It's the weekend, man. The hair and makeup people are gone, and
I literally thought that was going to be the whole show, just you making coffee. Oh man, what's up, bro?
What's up, brother? Well, thanks for tuning in to this is our first podcast ever. I'm not embarrassed. I went so far as to set up the YouTube thing, did all the artwork for the YouTube channel, and Albert's contribution was one thing. Dude, why do we have pink lettering on there? And it was the template. It was the template. That's all I could get. So I changed that. But we want to welcome you in. My name is Danny Mendez. We've been promoting this just today on my Facebook page and Albert's Facebook page. My brother, he's going to tell you a little bit about himself in a second. But when we were growing up, Albert is the way I grew up with my brother. His legal name is Alberto, and so that's how a lot of his friends know him, Alberto. But when we were kids, they always called us Danny and Albert. So as growing up, it was just Danny and Albert. And so one of the things that I've always wanted to do is collaborate with Albert on something. And so we're going to start with this podcast and see how it goes, see if people like it.
I mean, it's pretty funny because, like, when you talk about like promoting this thing, like a little bit. Let me give you a little behind the scene moment. My brother Danny was like, he's like, hey, here's the link to the Facebook page so you can put it live on Facebook so that people could see us on YouTube. I'm like, oh, we're promoting this. Like, we're doing this live. I go, basically, I was like, I'm a little hesitant. I want to see how the first show goes before I actually, put it online. So, but we always wanted to do something, like collaborate or whatever. I mean, we were young. We used to do church skits and different things, and and the fact that we live so far away now, like it's pretty cool to actually see my brother. And we were just looking for a way to, just kind of like bond as brothers and just kind of just talk and chew the cud, and we figured out this would be the best format, so because we spend like literally we can spend an hour on the phone and and it feels like 2 minutes. So we figured, like, why not start this YouTube page and share a little more insight.
So hopefully you come in honestly, I don't think you're going to get any deep insights, and that's really we're going to keep it kind of light so that it's Sunday night. It's probably the only time that works out for us. It's been a long day for me. I already been to church. I've worked an 8-hour shift, and so it's been a long day for me, but this is the only time that works out. And we'll talk a little bit about what Albert does, what I do, but we were thinking about a name for the show, and so we've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I swear I know we have. Every little profile test that I take shows
we're definitely first generation game console. I mean, like, you and I are older, so like if you think of that, like started with Pong, and then Atari, and then Nintendo 64. So like if you read up anything about it, I mean, the fact, what I do for a living, being an editor and seeing lights and flashy things means that, I need like instant gratification. Like I need stuff to keep moving. So when we were coming up with names, go ahead.
So we're coming up with names for the show. And so one of the things that's funny is like I said, like Albert was talking about earlier, is we talk a lot. And so when we talk about everything. We talk about everything from sports to entertainment to and everything in between. So Albert is sitting in the driver's seat. And what were you talking about?
I mean, I don't remember. It's like, the thing about it is the way my mind works is like, we could be talking about baseball, like, or anything about your kid. And all of a sudden, like, I'll just go off.
He was talking about something like candy or something, just talking about candy, and then all of a sudden went from talking about candy like to talking about something about deep, like relationships or something. I just looked at it and I go, well, that was an awkward transition. And so we're like, hey, that's the name of our show. It'd be Awkward Transitions.
Right. And then, if anyone knows me personally, they know I do that all the time. You know what I mean?
So we thought about doing that, but then, given the current climate, it has other connotations to it.
Right.
So we thought, well, maybe that's not such a good title. So we just stuck with the traditional, the Danny and Albert show. That's what we.
Well, like you were saying, like it's basically how people knew us growing up from South Chicago. Like in other words, it was like those two names were like in one sentence. It was never just Albert or just Danny. It was always Danny and Albert. Because you're my older brother, and so yep.
And that's cool. So the thing about it is, like, for some of you who don't know, me and Albert are just a year and 4 days apart. My birthday is June 8th. We'll note that down on the calendar. That's cool.
Which I forgot this year.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I got you a killer gift.
You did. Yeah, he ended up getting me. So I'm an editor in Los Angeles, and years ago I won a tally. And just in passing, I had bought my original one that I had won. And just in passing, I was like, oh, I've always wanted to get the second one. So he ended up.
It only took me 10 years to get it. Anyway, so we're a year and 4 days apart. So when we were kids, we spent a lot of time together walking on the streets, the mean streets of Chicago, man. And that was crazy growing up there in South Chicago. But it really kind of defines who we are.
It defines who we are. But let's just be real. People say I'm from Chicago, and they're from Berwyn, Evanston, Schaumburg, Lombard. So they don't know that I'm from Chicago. I meet them a lot. I mean, I go to bars a lot, and I hang out with friends. So whenever someone tells me they're from Chicago, I go, where are you from? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, I live in Lincoln Park. And I'm like, oh, so you were born in Lincoln Park? And they're like, oh, no, well, I was born in Lombard or Schaumburg or, And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not really Chicago. Like my birth certificate says South Chicago Hospital. And and all my friends know how proud I am to be a Chicagoan. And likewise, I mean, look at your cup. Yeah. Look at the cup that my brother had.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I was going to show this. But this is for the first show. Got to represent.
Oh, yeah. That, and then I have a tattoo of, if you know anything about Chicago, that's like I have the colors of, of the flag, South Side,
But but we always talk about this too. It's like, everybody wants to hate on gentrification and what's happened in a lot of inner cities, but it was really Chicago back then, and
yeah. You know what I tell Bethany, my girlfriend, is I tell her all the time, like, she asked me one time, have you ever been robbed? And I started cracking up because I used to, when I was a kid, like, we would hide our money in our socks because we knew that if we took transit, that we were going to get robbed. People would just go into our pockets and say, what do you have? And then they were like, just take our money. So we would actually hide money in our socks to make it on the South Side all the way to like the Chicago Theater, which back in the day was a dump. So
that's crazy, yeah. So that it kind of tells a lot about where we're from, South Chicago, and a little bit of our background. But you can't go too far without forgetting Mom. Mom passed away 6 months ago, and some of the people that may watch the podcast will remember Mom. But between Mom and South Chicago, well, first of all, it made us tough. Second of all, it made us in need of some serious therapy. But that's another show.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is that the running joke with my brother and I is that, and I mean this, like, my mom is one of the toughest men I've ever met. She was tough, man, like tough as nails, And I mean, she had to be. Like, think about it. I grew up, so going to South Chicago. And by the way, like, I know you're like, oh, really? Is it really that bad? Well, go on Google Earth or Google Maps and type in 87th and Commercial. And just look at the neighborhood. And you'll see how, like, now, how rough it is. It's basically like it looked like Beirut or like some war devastated place, because like half the places are like, you know, abandoned. All these houses are abandoned. There's a lot of people there, you know, they want to revitalize it, but it was a rough neighborhood. And the section that we grew up in, 87th and Commercial, Marquette, Exchange, Escanaba, those were the days where like you couldn't walk a block and it was a different gang.
But you know that became that way, man, in the 80s. You know that, because when we were little, it was still like, I guess maybe we were naive to it, but it was kind of like a sense of community, that kind of stuff. But as we became like junior hires, teenagers, that's when it started to go down, you know.
But then also too, like, tell me, because you know, like you watch the media and you see all this stuff about, like, you know, the thing about gangbangers, you know, I'll tell you, gang members is like, and I'm not promoting gangs, but here's the thing, what people forget. These people that are gangbangers and gang members, they know who's in a gang and who's not. Okay. Do they try to recruit you? Yeah, but they don't twist your arm. And the other thing is, like, I used to play Little League with all these guys. I used to play basketball. We used to go to the pool with these guys, and all of a sudden, like, two people that were friends in grade school, in high school, were enemies.
Exactly. Yeah, because you could have been best buds, and then like about 12 years old, 6th grade, you start choosing different paths. But it's not like someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, you want to be in the gang?" or that kind of stuff. It's like you kind of just start hanging out with them, and that kind of grows into that. But when we were kids, I thought it was really good neighborhood as far as like, like I said, community and
your neighbors, So,
but you know, it's like, I'll talk about this in a minute. Like with this, we're going to talk about it in a second. But one of the things, like here in Indy, I'll talk, because if you're just tuning in, I live in Indy now, Indianapolis. Again, now I'm doing the thing that you hate on. I don't actually live in Indy. I live in a suburb of Indy.
Well, I don't think
he lives in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. LA for life.
Gentrified part of Los Angeles.
West side, man. So,
right.
East side. No,
man, you got to watch your back when you walk to that coffee shop right around the corner, man. And,
which one? There's like 5.
Yeah, the 5 of them.
Yeah.
But, okay. Anyway, but he's in LA. I'm in. But one of the things, like, I hate here in Indy. Maybe hate's too strong a word, but so many people here are down on their town, man. It's like they slam Indy all the time. They talk bad about it. And again,
give me a for example, because I'm not from Indy. Like, do they talk about like what the transit or like the people or both? Or
no, like when I talk, because I will talk more about what we're doing right now. But I work for the transit department here in the city, and so on the buses, sometimes I'll strike up a conversation. I'll talk to people and I'll say, hey, we just moved here in February. I love this town. And they'll say some stuff like, it's okay. You don't get that response in Chicago. You know what I mean? And maybe you do, but people are passionate about Chicago and they're not here. And I don't even know if they're that way in LA.
Oh no, dude. Let me tell you something. People, well, that's the thing about Chicago. Like, it's people want to claim that city because it's like, Bethany tells me all the time. She's like, New York is what Chicago. I mean, okay. So she says New York is what Chicago is. So New York tries to be what Chicago is, and it'll never happen because the hustle and bustle of New York, there's just so much. New York is.
I didn't just follow you there. Okay, you said.
So another. I'm sorry.
She said Chicago tries to be like New York. Or
no,
New York tries.
She's saying as a city, New York wants to be Chicago, but it'll never be Chicago because of the amount of people and because of the amount of people and the way. And New Yorkers are very proud to be New Yorkers. They give off this, they're great people. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that in Chicago, it's Midwest, man. People are very friendly.
Okay,
the city's super clean.
Okay, now being down here because we're 3 hours south of Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, so being down here, it's funny because my perspective of Chicago is changed. I love Chicago. That's my hometown. I'll always be from Chicago.
Right.
But my perspective has changed where Chicago is like the New York of the Midwest. It's like the liberal place. It's the place where people. It's just kind of the
I wouldn't say liberal. I would say progressive. Is a better
progressive, whatever you
progressive,
want.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying
that's
what it is compared to like down here. But going back to us talking about, it's like they diss on their city so much here. They diss on. We get nothing's going on down here. They diss on the public transit is bad. They diss on different things. Now, a lot of people will say, some cool things about Indy, but what makes Chicago? How come Chicago is that way? Like people have like a lot of civic pride, man, where they're like,
it really. I'm telling you, what it really is because I've really thought about this. So first off, Chicago is it literally is it's a beautiful city. The way it's structured is beautiful. It's wrapped around the lake. You know what I mean? Like you can, and when you're in downtown, you can just feel the energy. So, and that maybe what New York is 24/7, but New York is very dirty, right? And oh yeah, and it smells like the one, when I visited there, right? I couldn't get that smell out, and that smell was everywhere. Whereas, like, I'm not saying Chicago doesn't have pollution, right? But it's also that people are just, I don't know, they're just friendlier, in Chicago. So,
but what I'm saying about Chicago is like, why do people have such civic pride? Like, why do they love their city so much?
It's a huge sports town. So, like, they bleed, like, I know we're Southside, but they bleed the Cubs, which is whatever. But don't even get me started down that Harry Carey drunk trader route, but they bleed the Cubs, they bleed the Bears. The Bears, when is the last time the Bears had a winning team? Yet they sell out Soldier Stadium.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
It's sad. I had to come to Indianapolis, and I'll probably see a Super Bowl win here before I do in Chicago. That's sad. Yeah. Anyway, but like this on it. But well, here's what I said too, because here's what I got tired of. And I talked to Karen. By the way, Karen's my wife. You'll hear me talk about her a lot. And Bethany's Albert's girlfriend. You'll hear me talk about her a lot. Not really. But I told Karen, I told Karen the other day, I said, see the awkward transition. I can't even finish my thought. Oh, what are we talking about?
Why is there a pastry in front of you?
Maybe I am hungry.
Yeah, no, you were talking.
I told Karen that back in Chicago, when we lived in Chicago, we're talking a lot about Chicago, and we're going to go somewhere with all this in just a second. But
not really. But go ahead.
We'll try to anyway. But we actually lived longer in the region. 219 represent 219.
Oh, y'all Hammond.
I love the 219.
I do too,
just as much as I do Chicago.
Because but 219 became Chicago. But what were you telling Karen?
No, what I told Karen is I got tired of when I lived in Northwest Indiana. I got so tired of hearing people that transplanted, to move, like to move either to go to school or to work, or for different reasons they moved there, and they would always diss on Northwest Indiana, diss on Chicago, and always talk about their home area. And I would always be like, well, if it was such a great area, why did you leave? Go back over there and stay there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I told her, when we come to Indianapolis, we're not going to be those people. We're not going to be those people that are always talking about how great Chicago was and how incredible the region was. And
I'll give you, so, at one time, my brother and I lived in Chicago, and then we lived in Hammond. Then I ended up moving to Los Angeles because all the work for me dried up in Chicago. Now I'm going to tell you this. When I first came to LA, I hated it. I hated it. And my brother can bear witness on this. I hated it because, like, it's a new city. I had some friends, but not the amount of, I have lifelong friends in Chicago and in Hammond. So when I moved, I would compare everything. The gyros are not like the gyros back in Greektown, or like, you know what I'm saying? All right, Nikki's, that place Nikki's, Danny. And I'm like, oh, the pizza stinks. Even their Chicago version stinks. Blah, blah, blah. So I was hanging out with a friend, and she summed it up for me, and it totally changed my perspective. She says, Alberto, you have to look as Chicago as your first love, you will always have that memory, and you will always love her because she was the first one that you gave your heart to. And she was a beautiful person, but but now she says, look at LA as a new girlfriend, a new lover, someone that you're embracing, something that's new. Enjoy it. Go out and explore. And the moment she said that, it clicked for me. And what you and Karen did by actually making a decision and being like, we're not going to be those people. We're going to be the people that's like, what's new? Let's go check some food out. What are the tourist areas? And then, when you come to LA and visit me, like LA.
Okay, now I'm going to be guilty of doing what I just said about dissing, man. Okay. All right. I love it down here. We're happy. We're having a good time. But I'm going to tell you this, man. The food down here, there's no food. I tell Karen all the time, I go, I miss from back, I'll say it's back home. I miss a lot of my friends that I told I said, but the main thing I miss is the food and the lake. And I said, the lake is water. So I miss food and water. What does that mean, man? I'm starving down here. I'm like, I'm going to die. But no, but the food.
You've been there. Here, how long have you been in Indy for?
Since February. February.
All right. Yeah. Let me tell you right now, you will find your spots. Just like I can sit here all day and tell you every spot right now. You know what I mean? That like you'll find your breakfast place. You just got to look for it. You know what I mean? You'll find your, what's that, Scrambled Diner? What's that place that you go to in Dyer?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the Scrambled Diner, man. If you're in Northwest Indiana, if you've never been there,
yeah,
you got to go to the Scrambled Diner. No, but hey, I will say this: we found one place we missed Pierogi Fest this year for the first time in like 5 years, and that was our fest. We love Pierogi Fest, but we found a good substitute, and that's the Indiana State Fair. We went there last Tuesday, man. They have it here in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
that fair is awesome, man. And so if you gotta lose Pierogi Fest to gain the State Fair, but that's what I'm talking about. It's like when you move to a new city, you really have to embrace it.
Was that the $2 festival you told me? It cost you $2 to get in.
Oh, dude, bro, I can ball on a budget.
You show me the picture of the guy. He looked nothing like Lincoln. He totally looked like a hipster from one of the bars I go to. And I'm like, they should have spent the $2 that you paid on his outfit, like his beard and his hat.
Yeah, it was it was good. I mean, they call it $2 Tuesdays. I guess they got a $2 Abraham Lincoln. That's why he looks so cheap, man. But yeah, it did look like a costume beard that you get like at a dime store or something like that. He just taped on, but it was a good time. And Landon's so small he doesn't know. But
who's Landon?
What's that?
Landon's your son?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you mentioned that.
So some of the folks that are watching, I have a son, Landon, 3 years old. That's what's causing this and the rest of this. But
I mean, it's funny because, like, I'm like having a new kid and moving to a new area. Like, I know he's 3. That's crazy, huge. Man. Yeah,
it's a new job, a new area. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it because I know that it's what we were supposed to do. You know what? If you read through our Facebook page, we actually have a poster about Karen's medical condition. Karen was diagnosed with breast cancer in February of 2016. So we've kind of fought that battle, and right now she's cancer free. That's awesome and big plus.
And but also too, that was like in moving because the hospitals and the medical. There was a lot. That's how you discovered Indy.
Honestly, you even said it because you said like, dude, I never pictured you in Indianapolis. I never did because I just you hear Indy.
You're like a big city Joe. You're like New York, like LA, like Chicago. Or what I'm saying is close, and you are kind of close. I mean, you're only 2.5, 3 hours away, but still.
Oh yeah, but honestly, Indy's the right size for us, and so. It's the perfect size for us. It's actually, I didn't even know this. I came down here, but the nickname is Naptown because it's Naptown, like take a nap. Because it's a sleepy town. It's just really laid back and chill, and it's not as hectic,
But they're like let me ask you this, going back to like food and different things. So every area has their thing, right? Every area has their thing. For example, South Chicago, we grew up in South Chicago, Heine's hot sauce. Heine's hot sauce is like, if you if you have like potato chips or like, or fried chicken, you pour this red sauce on, right? So LA, they have a lot of, here in LA, I found like they have a lot of things like the Danger Dogs, the Dodger Dogs, Danger Dogs, you know what I mean? Which is basically like I think it's like Mexico City or Guadalajara hot dog. That's where it actually like came from. But it's basically a bacon wrapped hot dog. So, and all the reason why I'm going here is like, have you found anything in Indianapolis that maybe you thought was weird that the locals love? You know what I mean? Like when I was in Arkansas, they would take peanuts and put it in a Coke can and drink the Coke can and eat peanuts with it. So you get the salt and the sugar.
Okay.
Have you found anything like that?
Okay, I'm going to be straight up sincere. You're not going to believe this because you just laid out a whole case why every place has got their thing.
Right.
I'm not joking. Indy doesn't have anything. There's nothing. Okay, the one thing that they talk about down here that is absolutely nuts and it drives me nuts is they talk about having spaghetti with chili. They put their spaghetti in the chili, and that's their thing down here. That's the one, like we got hot dogs and beef and gyro and all that back and forth. Now that's their one thing down here, and they talk about it and they get starry-eyed, and I'm like,
but have you tried it though? Have you tried it at all? Like, what I'm saying is like, you look at it and you're like, oh, but have you actually like gone to a restaurant where they serve this dish and had it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And then you lost all objectivity in my sense, because you're looking in. I mean, there's mixtures of food that people, putting bacon in a hot dog 20 years ago, in a donut, putting bacon in a donut 20 years ago, they looked at it like, you're nuts. And now, like, how many donuts have bacon in them?
Well, all right. Well, okay. Based on that, I'll give it a try. But going back, the one thing that I hate what they're doing is, India is growing. It's booming. Like the downtown area is really coming along real good. And so they're getting a lot of hipsters to come down here, and every other place is doing their gentrified their gentrified chicken, or this is just it throws me off. I'm like, just give me the old school anyway. Right.
Like vegan chorizo.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. And so but it's okay. But as far as like living, I wouldn't trade it. It's an awesome place. It's laid back. A lot of cool people down here. A lot of cool people. And so but anyway, what I wanted to talk about, we only got a couple minutes left in the show tonight. And by the way, if you are joining us tonight, thanks for joining us. And this is the Danny and Albert show. We hope to do more of these.
And that said, you can hit the little subscribe button that's right down there.
Exactly.
So when we do post these videos, you'll be the first one in line.
Well, I'm really hoping.
I'm sure they're lining up for this show.
Oh, big time. And at 10:30 Eastern time on Sunday night, man. Big, man. Yeah. Hey, my only goal is really to be big in Sheboygan, man. That's it, man. It's just that's a movie reference anyway. But no, I hope they don't put like how many people are watching tuning in. Like
we could block that somehow.
Because I would hate to I know for sure we have one subscriber on the YouTube channel, and that's my wife Karen. So I know that for sure.
What about Landon? You can bump that up to 2.
Yeah, we'll put him in there anyway. But I want to talk just real quick before the show ends tonight. We got some different things planned. Albert, talk a little bit about like what you do, because kind of gives them a little perspective. I'm going to talk about transitions, like transitioning to a different place, but just kind of give them a little bit about like what you're doing, your background, sure, and kind of what in the future, some things people might be able to see from you that you'll be able to help them with.
Sure. I, came from South Chicago, ended up moving to him, and I worked in Chicago for about 10, 11 years as an editor, editing a lot of documentary, a lot of crime shows, American Justice, When Weather Makes History. These are older shows. And then,
not to interrupt, but he's being a little bashful there, a little bit, whatever that's the term is. He worked at the #1 documentary production company in Chicago for 10 years, Towers Production. So he's not going to say it, so I'll say it for him.
Yeah, and I meant, like, the thing about it is, like, I've met a lot of gracious people along the way, like, gracious. And that said, like, help me come to LA, because all the work dried up in LA. Oprah left, and I could not see myself editing. I mean, all the Tars Productions dwindled down to like, and it was right around 2008 from the crash, the housing crash, and a lot of people were watching TV. A lot of networks were nervous; they weren't re-upping, so a lot of the work dried up. And I just had to move to Los Angeles. And when I moved, I got really lucky. Started working in reality TV at a place called Bunim and Murray that does The Real World and Love Games and a lot of other shows, and got my editing chops there. And now the current show that I'm working on is a repackaged version of Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates. So, and it's on, Josh Gates is on his actual shows, just moved to Discovery, Expedition Unknown. What are you checking your bank account? I'm over here talking, and you're looking down, you're like, oh, okay, I gotta check my seat.
Dude, no, I'm like,
the lights are gonna go off.
Look, right now we can't afford a producer. I'm doing production work, backgrounds, behind the scenes. I even muted my mic, so I'm like doing.
You gotta put some picture up when you're doing that stuff, because it's like he's boring me to smithereens. So
no, I think on this thing they can only see you.
He totally forgot the camera was on you. Well, let's transition you now.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just messing around. So, so I moved to LA and I'm an editor. I've been working on Expedition Unknown, the repacks for. Is it done?
And I'm back. You're messing my game up, man. You're making us look like we're some third-rate.
We're still live.
I know we are. Okay, go ahead. Keep talking. Okay. So, basically, the reason I tossed to Albert is I want you to know kind of what he brings to the table. We hope to have a couple people on to help us, but also Albert's very creative and will help you a lot with the creative side of life. Also, don't want to turn this into Oprah moment, but both of us have been through a lot of stuff since the time we were little, growing up hard, and we've probably read enough self-help books between us both to fill up a library. But so maybe we'll touch on some of that, working through some stuff. In the future, we'll touch on that, and then tell them about your weight loss, bro. I mean, because that's huge.
Yeah, I used to weigh my head. A lot of my friends know this in LA, and of course, all my friends saw the transition of me going from, I was thin when I was younger, and then I got really heavy in my early 20s, and I ballooned up to 480 pounds, and then I lost all the weight, and I got down to, my lowest was 205. Of course, now I'm like in between. I fluctuate. I mean, I've had weight issues my whole life, and basically lost all the weight. So I really, what I feel like I can bring to this podcast, what I feel like is the understanding of health, right? Like I've read, you talk about reading self-help books. I've read so much on diets because people that are heavy, all they do is fantasize about losing weight. I figured it out. Hopefully I can.
Well, that's not true. They don't only fantasize about losing weight. They fantasize about pastries and they fantasize about pizza. I'm speaking from first-hand knowledge. I do have. What?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like I got a pizza right above my head right now. If I could, we got no budget. If I had a budget, I'd have like a little pizza pop up.
No, but I mean that's kind of been my struggle too. So,
but also
too, wait, but Albert's got and dude is as strong as an ox, and so he works out, is very strong, and so weight training and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I'll be able to talk on that and fill you in from that goes. As far as I'm concerned, I'm basically in the middle of a midlife crisis. No, I'm just joking. Well, that's a little bit the truth, but I taught for 20 years. I was a teacher for 20 years at a Christian college.
Oh yeah.
And so I love learning. I love reading. Very curious about life. So we plan on entertaining you with some of that stuff. And then like we were talking about, we both had it hard, and and I just want to help people.
I mean, I think you're totally you're totally underselling yourself. And I'll say this, like my brother is one of the smartest guys I know. You know, he really is. If I need advice, like I come to him because he's so well read. You know what I mean? The fact that he was, you know, a teacher, an administrator for over 20 years and, you know, speaks 2 languages. He's bilingual. I mean, like truly bilingual. And, you know, he has a love for people that like, and I will say, any of my friends, you could talk to anyone that's met Danny. The thing about Danny is there's nobody else like Danny. Personality-wise, you know what I mean? Education-wise, I feel like he's one of a kind. And you know, go ahead.
This is now the Danny show. You're gone. I don't need you. I don't need you. You're gone. Gone.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. I appreciate that. Man, you'll know if you tune in or watch us for a little bit, you'll know that we love each other very much. My brother, I mean, next to my wife's my best friend and dearest person in the world to me, but my brother's right there. But hey, we're going to run out of time a little bit, but I want to talk to some of the folks out there. Maybe you're considering a life transition. Albert did his about 10 years ago. Was it 8 years ago? 2010, right?
Yeah.
2010.
To LA?
Yeah. Or 20, December 29.
Yeah.
2009. Yeah. And so mine was just recently in 2016, I resigned from teaching, and and then my wife got sick, and then finally we were able to fully transition down here to Indianapolis. But to talk a little bit, just like why you chose LA, like what was like if somebody's thinking about maybe choosing a city to relocate to, why did you pick?
I mean, like, you know, of course, this may be, I can spend 2 hours on inside info on LA. If anyone's ever thinking about actually moving to Los Angeles, I can write a wiki. I could talk about this subject forever because there's things that you learn about moving cross country that people don't tell you about.
Oh, by the way, that's going to be a show. Me and Albert are going to talk about the road trip of road trips.
Yeah.
We drove from Hammond, Indiana to Los Angeles, California. But that'll be a whole show. Okay, but go again. Why LA?
And only almost got in one physical fight at a Walgreens. Because someone had to get their backpack out of the car.
I'm laughing at it's an inside joke, and I hate when people do broadcasts and stuff, and they have their inside jokes. But we will fill you in on that inside joke. But yeah, it was Albert was being obsessive and had that car. I mean, literally, it looked like we were on a space mission.
Tetris. It was Tetris.
It was Tetris.
It was like and let's just preface this by saying, I told my brother Danny about 100 times, don't move anything. If you need something, let me know. I had actually done a dry run of how everything fit in, and we were literally like 2 blocks away from the hotel, and he decides he wants to get his backpack out, which was buried inside.
And so I took it out, and then it was all over the 14 hours. So then he was mad because we were right about to go to the hotel. He goes, "Couldn't you just wait?" And so then we started going at it. We're like, "Okay, just stop, man. Yeah. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We got to get some sleep." Anyway, but that's another story for another day. But again, like, why'd you choose LA? What was some of your thinking?
Well, I mean, the biggest reason I chose LA is because I didn't want to work on corporate videos, and that's just me being real because all the work was drying up. I didn't want to work for talk shows because Rosie was coming into town. I didn't want to work for Oprah, like a talking show format. I really wanted to work in television. I mean, my dream job is to be a documentary editor, feature film editor. But then also, too, on the real, that dream for me is kind of went away because I like to eat. And I like and it may be your love, but yeah, pay my rent, you know? So, you know, that's not to say that I wouldn't work on one, but, you know, at the same time, you need to stack some funds, you know, not work for free. But I moved to LA, going back all of that. I moved to LA because, like, my career doesn't define who I am, but I have to create. I have to. And my creation is on a canvas called Avid, or back in the day, Final Cut, and now possibly Premiere. That's my canvas. And if I couldn't do that and be happy, joyous, whatever, about what I was working on, then I had to run. That was the biggest reason I left.
So in my brother's case, it was more basically it was the only place that he could, other than New York.
Yeah, I didn't want to do New York. I mean, like, honestly, New York, the thing about New York that I didn't want to do is I was like, all right, LA is the Mecca when it comes to TV. It is the Mecca, right? It's LA and then New York, and now all the places now like like Nashville and other places like that where other networks are. But as far as like actual television and creating content, like, like all these episodics, like The Walking Dead, they're all posted in LA.
Right.
And, and so that was my dream job. And it's still my dream job to do either episodics, like as a story, feature film editor, or documentaries. But at the same time, like I said, so I had to move.
So he chose it that way because basically that's where the work was. Our case was a little bit different. Our case, we were looking to transition, but didn't know exactly where. And then my wife was approved for a clinical trial here that is a clinical trial that'll help her not to get not to have a recurrence of cancer. And so that kind of led us down here, and we feel it was divine, God leading us. And so we came down here, and so we've loved it, but kind of this shows the difference of sometimes it's just you got to go where the work is in your field, and other times it's just a leading, something that's kind of guiding you and pushing you. But if anybody's out there thinking about making that change, one of the things is preparation. What did you do? Like when you prepared, when you prepared to go out there, anything in particular you remember doing?
I mean, the biggest thing is I had $15,000 in the bank. Most people, here's the thing about, so you have to be a risk taker. Okay. You're not going to grow. In fact, if there's not chaos, you're not growing. Like, in other words, you need that. You need conflict. You need stuff like that because you learn how to deal with that stuff and you grow as a person. So the reason I said that is it was scary. I have my whole tribe is in Chicago. I'm like, I'm a big fish in a little pond in Chicago, and now I'm going where all the sharks reign in LA. Because who am I? I'm coming from documentaries going into reality, have no experience cutting reality, and anyone who's an editor and thinks that they can go from one to the other is an idiot and knows nothing about editing. It's like being a chef. Just because you can cook Italian food, you can't cook Chinese food. You know what I mean? It takes years to learn that, and I had to do that. So my calculated risk is I had $15,000 in the bank because I said, even if I don't work for a year, my rent will be paid. And I'm the type of person, I don't sit there and wait for work. I would work at a Home Depot or at a Costco so that I could feed myself and try to continue not my dream, because my dream happened years ago, but to continue my lifestyle, what I love to do for a living. So I got prepared. Yeah. I took a calculated risk.
Yeah, and that's because when I was going through the thing and just talking to you and we're just bouncing ideas, is what you kept telling me is, dude, take a calculated risk. We couldn't do exactly that. We couldn't scrounge up $15,000 like that, but we did have a little bit of a nest egg and a plan, and I ran that plan by you. And so, man, you can't run from your problems. You can't escape your problems and just say, well, hey, I'm just going to run to this town, see what happens. But that was good. And then, some difficulties. What were some of the difficulties? I'll tell you our difficulties, and then you tell me your difficulties, and I'll tell you.
I mean, the biggest difficulty, and if you're an editor, you work in production, I'm going to give you the keys of the city. Keys right here. It doesn't matter how talented of an editor you are, right? If you're a diva, no one wants to work with you. So they'd rather have a mediocre editor that they can get along with than, like I said, a diva. So that said, it's community, it's connections. I've gotten it took me a while to realize that, because being from the South Side of Chicago and having this strong work, Mom put a strong work ethic in us. I thought my credits, who I am as an editor, I was at one time I was supervising over 40 editors. I'm like, oh man, I'm this rock star. You know what I mean? And I left with that attitude, and it took me a while to realize, oh, I'm not working. And the reason why I wasn't working, I wasn't networking. And networking is the key to anything, whether it's business or Like if you're not an outgoing person, you need to become one, because these people are going to find you work. You know what I mean? And that's it took me about a good 6 months to realize I had to phone some people back home and be like, did I work with that Towers? And be like, hey, I'm not making it here in LA. No one's picking up the phone. No one's taking my resumes. Can you get my resume in front of someone? And someone actually did. And that's when I started working at B&M and Murray. And from then on, it's like a virus. People just start spreading your name around, So that's
our difficulties down here has been a little bit different. I did fortunately I lined up a job before I came, which I think is just smart to do. If you don't have the 15,000 in the bank, I think it's smart to line up a job.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
the route you took versus mine is you had work and income before you moved out there. A lot of people, like especially in my industry, like it's very hard to line up work, being 3,000 miles away. You have to be in LA if you want to work in LA in production.
Yeah. But I guess, and everything, honestly, have to be honest, everything's kind of been pretty smooth. And I know a lot of people don't have that same experience, but if we did have some difficulties, it's a little bit like with back home, we had a lot of family support, like to take care of Landon, our little toddler. So that's been a little bit difficult, finding people that you trust. And so we're still kind of working on that. And I don't know what to tell you other than this. One of the difficulties is also to finding your tribe, and it takes a while, but you do have to find your tribe. I read somewhere that the most even the most skilled people with relationships can only maintain about 6 at the most very, very, very close friendships, and probably close. The average probably is 2 to 3 close relationships. And so the article is talking about, why would you spend all the energy maintaining intimate and close relationships with people that are far away, that can't help you? It's almost better to not to let them go, but acquire a new set of very close friends close to where you are. And that's kind of what we're doing. It's a lot difficult. The job I'm working right now is a little bit crazy, but that's something that I think
that's what I did. Exactly. I did exactly what you just said. I had lifelong friends. I still have lifelong friends in Chicago and Hammond, right? So the moment I moved to LA, and you're talking about tribe, I had to find a new tribe. And I feel like after being here close to 10 years, you know what I mean, Danny? Like you met my crew. I have my tribe. So, and it's also honestly,
they're great people, man. And I'm going to tell you this too: like, creative people are fun to be around. I love having dinners with my brother's friends, man. They're awesome. And I know there's a stigma. Everybody's got their opinion of Hollywood and people, but I'll tell you, some of the nicest people I've ever met are and most genuine are my brother's friends. And when we go out, we just have a really, really good time. They're fun people. Creative people are fun people. But that's what we're looking for here. So I'd encourage you, if you're out there, transitioning, do that. Try to establish those closer friendships and bonds. And then, do you have any?
I do have
parting shots. Any last advice?
I do. The strong pieces of advice that I would tell you is this. Okay, if you're now outgoing, become outgoing. You have to force yourself to break outside of your shell, or you are going to be alone. If you're not making a new friend a year, you're not growing. That's a year. And when I say friend, I'm talking like close friend. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to it's hard. Like you were saying, it's hard to maintain all those close, but you have to like, think about it. In 20 years, you have 20 lifelong friends now.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Well, if I were to give people, not that you guys are asking advice, but hey, that's what podcasts are for, man, to give the 5 people that are watching us some free advice. But no, I would say the one thing is this: don't be afraid. I mean, if it's time, and there's a lot of fears of letting go and this and that, but there's something in us that tells us, in my case, I feel it was God telling us our time here is done. You got to move on. I would don't be afraid of it. And when you do make that change, yeah, it's scary, but there's a part of you that says, man, why didn't I do this sooner? There's
right.
a part of you that says that. But then also, especially if you're doing a career change, make sure you need a reality check that your career and your job doesn't define you, because because when I left teaching, I was like, who am I? And I used to have really bad identity crisis, but I realized, I'm still my brother's brother. I'm my wife's husband. I'm my son's dad. There's so many other things I was like, you can't let your job define you, but some good thoughts.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hey, well, we were only going to set out to talk 30 minutes, but didn't we tell you, like, me and him could talk an hour, and it seems like 2 to us. You're probably sleeping right now, but that's probably the purpose of the show as well, to put you to sleep on a Sunday night, get you a good rest for the week. But thank you for tuning in. And we have a Facebook page that you can like, and we'll put these videos on there. And then we have a YouTube page that you could subscribe to. It's on the page. Hit the subscribe button, and we're going to try to do this one time a week. I think the next time that we meet, we're going to talk about that keto diet that Albert's doing. I'm trying to lose weight again. I'm trying to get back in shape, and we're going to talk about dieting, maybe doing the keto thing. Plus, he's an expert on intermittent fasting, and so we'll probably talk about that. And obviously, probably sneak in some. We'll probably go down a couple rabbit trails and do a couple awkward transitions. So, thanks for tuning in tonight. We're sure glad that you were a part of this first broadcast. Give us your thoughts. Send us a message if there's something you want us to talk about, want to hear about. We'd love to get some feedback and give us some more direction. But this is Danny.
This is Albert. It's good seeing you, bro.
Good seeing you, bro. Let me stop the broadcast. All right. See you, folks.